Once upon a time, a flood wiped out an entire town, and survivors had to take refuge on the roofs of a local church, and one of which was the local priest. Eventually, a rescue team came out with a boat and ordered all the survivors to get on. All did so happily, except for the priest. "God is my only Savior, and He will be the one to come and save me," he replied. The rescuers tried their very best to convince him to get on that boat, but he didn't budge. Eventually, they abandoned that priest on the rooftop. Then a second rescue boat came to do another check on any survivors, and sure enough, they found that priest reciting the Bible, praying for God to rescue him. Again, they tried to convince him to come with them, but again he answered, "God is my only Savior, and He will be the one to come and save me." They tried to convince him, but he refused, and they left without him. Then one last boat arrived a few hours later, and again, for the last time, they tried to convince that priest to come on board. Again, he refused, saying, "God is my only Savior, and He will be the one to come and save me." And they ended up leaving that priest once again. Eventually, he died a week later on that same rooftop. And at Heaven's Gate, he asked the angels, "I was praying to God to come and save me. Why did you let me die?" And the angels replied, "We sent not only one and not only two, but 3 lifeboats to come and get you, and you refused all of them." Isn't that stubbornness, huh, friends? Sometimes we try to twist the hand of God to have things done in the way that we want instead of the way that God desires. And when we do what we want, and when we do what we don't want, or when we do what God desires and do the opposite instead, we allow sin or death into the world. Friends, those have consequences. The things we don't do get swept. The things we do don't get swept under the rug by God. Now, He could fix them, but He gave us free will to utilize and to grow. He will never force His will upon you and me, but will always invite us to do what is best. I often get the question, why do bad things happen in the world and God allows it? Now, friends, God has a will, one that is perfect and at the same time permissive. In His permissive will, God allows you the freedom to act, even though it may not be the best way to do something. It is the same way He allowed you to cut that guy off on 610 2 weeks ago. The same way He allowed you to steal that cookie from the cookie jar when you were 8 years old. It is the same way He allowed you to make that mistake in college. It is the same way He allowed you to yell at your sibling, or the same way He allowed you to disobey your parents, the same way He allowed you to gossip about the person that you know you shouldn't be gossiping about. But His permissive will also allows us to do great things, that we may choose Him intentionally and be united to His love for all eternity the way He initially planned perfectly. Simply put, friends, even when we mess up, God is still present to lead us towards Himself, to lead us towards perfection, to the peace He has always invited us to obtain in His perfect will for you and for me. For this reason, friends, God never imposes. He does not manipulate. But going back to Him and staying with Him and trusting Him enables us to overcome poor situations for the better. Therefore, friends, wisdom is the following. If I don't know it better, go to someone or something that does. Fortunately, the one that knows it best is the same God that desires to instill His love upon you intentionally as His friend. This is the gift of Jesus into the world, friends. The Word made flesh comes to you and to me to demonstrate what love is, to demonstrate that good things happen when we cooperate with the will of God. And the will of God is that his disciples have a participation in his power and in his love and in his might, something that makes us do great wonders, even more miracles than Jesus himself performed in this world. However, do you believe, or are you comfortable settling, and not growing? Now think for a moment of a stubborn person in your life. You may lament, and you might even say that that person does not grow because he or she is completely rigid and does not even care to consider the opinion or option of another. It's their way or the highway, you may often see. You may notice how these individuals probably have a hard time finding jobs, probably have a hard time keeping relationships. These individuals probably have a hard time teaching and also learning. They may have a hard time displaying love. Sure, some things and some values must be kept, like our faith, for instance, but when it is kept and presented in the same boring way without a refresh, how can it be shared? Friends, stubbornness is the product of feeling that my way is the best. Unfortunately, it hurts us because God's way is the best. And not only is it the best, but if we are at his service here on earth, his way is really the only way. And when he entrusts you with gifts and talents to help us and to help the world around us to continue in that same way, one that grants us great peace, memories, joys, happiness, and opportunities to continue sharing his love, it is a way to experience that God's love never ends. We hear in the gospel today an example of knowing what is right in our minds, but not allowing that to flow into our actions from deep within. The man in the gospel thought he knew God's ways, but was stuck in what he was able to understand. He knew the commandments, but did not allow the experience of God to lead him. Jesus invites the man to go, sell all he had, and follow him, something that would seem like a great task. Friends, this is a matter far bigger than being rich or poor. Rather, Jesus is calling him to sell or to let go of all the things he thought he had, all the things he was comfortable with, all the things that made him feel secure, to follow that same Jesus who would make him feel even more secure. The young man did not know what Jesus was inviting him to do. He didn't know that Jesus was inviting him to embrace those same commandments he previously stated, to let go of what he wasn't and to follow what belonged to him. Friends, ours is not adultery. Ours is not murder. What belongs to us is not lying, and nor is it stealing. What is ours is the love and goodness of God. Needless to say, friends, death is intentionally choosing our will over the will of God. And this is the reason why the Blessed Virgin Mary is so special. Now, she's not God in any way. However, she cooperated with God, even though she did not understand the plan perfectly. Her will was united to God's will. And now is the time for you and me to do the same. Friends, this is the formula for peace. It is the only way to truly love. But since the choice is yours, what will you do? Will you die in your stubbornness? Or will you unite your will to the God who saves?